My name is Mary Swallow and I'm with Tucson Parks and Rec Leisure Classes. I'm one of the pottery instructors. And today I'm going to talk about making a lidded jar with a soft slab construction. And I'm going to use a template to make my jar. So here are some examples of jars. You can make a three-sided one. You can do anything for the knob, and you can put it on feet, or you can have it so it's just going to set flat on the table. So you see I have different shapes. I have a square with straight sides. I have a square with puffy sides, and I'll tell you how to fix that in the template. A triangle one with and without feet, and another kind of rectangular one. So how we're going to make these pots is we're going to make them, and then we're going to put the bottom on, and then we're going to cut the rim. And you can do anything for the lid, or you can make them without a lid. And I'm going to talk about the lids as we get closer to that. So I'm going to set these to the side right now. And you're going to start with a slab of clay. So here's a slab that I've rolled, and this is a little bit soft still. So I'm going to let it set up a little bit, but I'm going to put the pattern side down and grab a template. Let's talk about making a template. You can measure it out, but a quick way to do a template is just take a piece of paper. This is just a piece of typing paper, and I folded it in half, folded it in half again, and then I folded those corners together. So then I can take a pair of scissors and cut that straight, and cut that, and voila, I have a template that I can use. So let's use this template that we just cut and place it on your slab. I'm going to very lightly go through and mark where I want to cut. And the reason that I'm marking it first without cutting it all the way through is it's way easier to control your cuts if you're not trying to hold your template. So I'm just trying to make things a little bit easier for me. Okay. Anytime you're doing cutting, you want to move the clay rather than to move your arm or your body. So move the clay where you have a nice angle and good control for you to cut. So you're wanting to cut it and take away the pieces. You can save some of those. If you have a big piece that's nice and flat, you can save that, and that's going to become the bottom of your pot. Okay, so now we have this, and we're going to want to bevel the edges because this is where we're going to join the two pieces of clay together. So we have our texture side down, and we're going to bevel the edges at a 45 because we have 4 corners on this. So I'm just going to go through and cut those edges. And again, I'm moving the clay rather than so that my hand is at a comfortable angle to make those bevels. I don't want to be doing any kind of awkward cutting for myself. I don't want to be doing anything like that. I want everything as comfortable for myself as I can so that I have better accuracy and better consistency. All right, so we want our clay to be soft enough so that when we bend it, it's not going to crack, but that we can join it together quite easily. So we have our angles cut. We're going to wet those edges, and we're going to do what we call slipping and scoring. So the slip is just formed by having clay and water on the edge of the clay, and the scoring is just scratching it up. So you can use anything you have. You can use a needle tool, any kind of scraper. You can use a hair comb, a piece of a hair comb. You don't have to have any kind of special equipment to slip and score. You just want to scratch up the edges, and the reason you're doing that is so that the clay has something to grab a hold of each other and join together well. Put a little more water on there to form some more slip. So I have my edges wet and they're scored, and I'm going to gently fold them up and gently pinch them together. And again, I'm moving the piece rather than trying to use an awkward angle for my hands. I'm moving the clay and the piece to where I can work on it easily. If your clay won't kind of hold together, give it a couple more minutes to set up. If it's too soft and floppy, you'll have trouble getting those edges to stay up and stick together. So now that I have those, I'm going to want to come on the outside and smooth that together. Pinch it all along that join. To make a nice seam and make it go together well. And then I'm going to take a coil, or you can use these little pieces of clay that you cut off for your bevel, wet them, score them, and put them into your seams to help keep that join together. So I have a piece. I'm going to set this aside for right now, because just like on every good cooking show, I have a piece that I've done in advance. So I've joined it together and I've put coils on those seams. So now, you see I folded this one up. This is going to be the bottom of my pot, and this is going to be my top. So I have a slab of clay that I was working off of, and I'm just going to place my pot on here, and I'm going to mark an edge just so that I know which edge I'm working on. And I'm going to trace around this pot of where I want to cut the bottom. And you see again, I'm moving the clay and the piece so that I'm not working at an awkward angle. And the reason that I made a mark is because this bottom may not be completely symmetrical, so I want to be able to put that pot on there the same way. So I'm going to cut where I traced. And then what I'm going to do is slip and score again. Okay, and here's my line down here. That corner goes with this corner on my pot. And I'm going to join those together. Give it a couple little taps on the table. And again, seal up that seam really well. If my bottom was uneven, I could have gone through and tidied that up before I put on the bottom, made it even. And I just want to make sure that that's on there really well. You can gently tap it with something to help join those. Okay, so I'm going to do this, and now I have a bubble of air inside. I'm going to let it set up a little bit, and then you can put on feet, and you can put on a lid, on a knob. So here's one that I've already put my feet on. I've already put my knob on, and the clay has set up a little bit more. See, if I touch on this one, I don't know if you can see, it still kind of flexes a little bit. I want it a little stiffer than that before I actually cut it. So this one has set up, and it's leather hard. So this one, it's nice and stiff, it's leather hard, but I'm still going to be able to carve into it. And this is the perfect consistency to cut the lid off. So when you're cutting the lid off, you don't want to go straight into the clay, because if you make the lid flat, it's just going to slip around. So you want to go in at an angle down or an angle up. So here's an example. This one I've angled up. And the other thing you notice on this one, I have this edge which is kind of has only one place that it can go, and that's called a key. And that's kind of a nice thing to do, because then you know immediately how that lid is going to go on and how it's going to fit very well. So here's an example of one where I didn't put a key on it, and you see that I have to try different ways to find out the best way for that lid to fit. So using a key is always a nice thing to do. So you can go and have a straight edge with a key, or you can just go at any kind of wild angle you want. So let's go at a wild angle a pattern, and I'm just going to kind of mark it gently so I know what I want to do when I'm cutting. And remember, I don't want to go in straight, so I'm going to go in at an angle and angle down, and very carefully cut along this pattern that I've determined. And gently lift the lid off, and you have a lid and a jar. If you want, you can go through and put a coil of clay to reinforce this bottom seam, but you're definitely going to want to clean off these edges and smooth that off for your final pot. And now I have a lid with a pot that fits perfectly.